If you're hearing this, it means I've already gone too far. I told myself I wouldn't record this. I told myself no one needed to know. But silence feels like a coffin now, and maybe sharing this with you is the only way I'll have proof that I didn't lose my mind. It started with something stupid, something harmless. I found my old phone. That's it. An outdated, scratched-up brick that hadn't seen daylight in years. I should have left it buried at the bottom of that box, forgotten with the old chargers and tangled headphones. Instead, I plugged it in. I don't even know why. Nostalgia, I guess. Curiosity. Those tiny human urges that ruin everything. At first, it was almost comforting. The startup chime, the grainy wallpaper I never bothered to change. Even the apps I hadn't touched since college. A museum of who I used to be. I scrolled through old texts, unread notifications, playlists I'd forgotten existed. For a moment, it was like stepping into a time capsule, a softer, easier version of me. But then, the photos. You'd think I'd be happy to see them. Grainy selfies, awkward parties, half-blurry snapshots of friends I don't even talk to anymore. For a few minutes, until I noticed something I couldn't explain. There were pictures I didn't remember taking. And not just a few, an entire album. At first I thought maybe they were screenshots or junk files or something that got transferred accidentally. But the more I swiped, the colder my stomach turned. These weren't random glitches. They were deliberate, clear, framed like someone had been holding the phone in their hands. And worse, they weren't pictures of places I'd been. They were of me. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Maybe because I can't sleep without seeing those images burned into the inside of my eyelids. Maybe because no one I've told so far has believed me, and maybe you'll be different. Or maybe, if you're hearing this, it means I'm already gone, and these words are all that's left. Here's what I'll say now before we go further. Don't do what I did. Don't dig through your old devices. Don't go searching for forgotten memories. Some things stay buried for a reason. But if you've already started, if you've got some old phone or laptop charging on your desk right now, turn it off, please. Because once you've seen what I've seen, there's no unseeing it. I should have left that phone in the dark. Instead, I opened it, and now I can't close it again. I wasn't even looking for it that day. I was just cleaning, the kind of half-hearted attempt at organizing your life that happens when boredom and guilt collide. You know the drill. A box of tangled cords, mismatched socks, receipts from years ago that feel too official to throw away but useless all the same. That's when I found it. Wedged between an old stack of burned CDs and a cracked sunglasses case. My old phone. I actually laughed when I picked it up. The thing felt heavy in my hand, solid in a way new phones don't. It had that faded matte texture, the kind that held fingerprints like scars, the screen scratched but somehow still intact. I remember dropping it in a parking lot once and thinking I'd destroyed it forever, only to find the old beast still humming the next day. It was indestructible, or at least it used to be. Here's the part that bothered me, though. When I held it, the back felt faintly warm. That didn't make sense. It had been dead for years. The battery was long gone, useless. I shook it off as my imagination. Maybe the sun through the window had heated the case. Still, my thumb itched toward the power button. I shouldn't have pressed it, but nostalgia is a drug. The screen lit up after a long pause, the kind of sluggish revival you'd expect from a relic. And just like that, I was staring at a wallpaper I hadn't seen in nearly a decade. A grainy photo of my college dorm desk, messy with energy drink cans and notebooks. The date in the corner made my chest tighten. That life felt like it belonged to someone else. I started swiping through the apps. Old music playlists, embarrassing ones, full of bands I'd never admit to liking now. Messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. I even found one from my ex. A simple goodnight sent on a Tuesday night I didn't remember. It was like being haunted, but not by ghosts, by my own younger self. And the photos, God, the photos. First, they made me smile. Blurry group shots from parties, people holding up red cups and pretending to laugh harder than they were. A dozen selfies where I was clearly testing out different haircuts. Screenshots of memes that stopped being funny years ago. For a while, I let myself sink into it. I could almost hear the songs I'd been listening to back then. Feel the weight of that old life pressing around me. but nostalgia has teeth. The longer I scrolled, the more unsettled I became. There were gaps where I didn't remember taking anything. Weeks, sometimes months, with no photos at all, and then suddenly dozens in a row. Some I remembered, most I didn't. But I told myself that was normal. We forget things. Phones collect junk. I was about to turn it off when I noticed the storage bar flashing red at the bottom. Almost full. That was odd. I never remembered saving much on this thing. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened the albums. That's when I saw it. An unfamiliar folder. It wasn't named like the others. No camera roll. No downloads. No neat little tag. Just a single dot. That's all. A black circle for a name, sitting there like it was waiting. For a moment, I thought it was a glitch. Some corrupted file the system had spit out after all these years. But when I tapped it, the album opened like any other. My thumb hovered there, scrolling the first few thumbnails. I froze. But nostalgia has teeth. The longer I scrolled, the more unsettled I became. There were gaps where I didn't remember taking anything. Weeks, sometimes months, with no photos at all, and then suddenly dozens in a row. Some I remembered, most I didn't. But I told myself that was normal. We forget things. Phones collect junk. I was about to turn it off when I noticed the storage bar flashing red at the bottom. Almost full. That was odd. I never remembered saving much on this thing. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened the albums. That's when I saw it. An unfamiliar folder. It wasn't named like the others. No camera roll. No downloads. No neat little tag. Just a single dot. That's all. A black circle for a name, sitting there like it was waiting. For a moment, I thought it was a glitch. Some corrupted file the system had spit out after all these years. But when I tapped it, the album opened like any other. My thumb hovered there, scrolling the first few thumbnails. I froze. These weren't the photos I remembered. These weren't the parties, the friends, the drunken smiles. These were darker. Shadows where there shouldn't be shadows. Rooms I didn't recognize. Faces blurred or turned away. And somewhere, buried in those thumbnails, I swear I saw myself. I shut the album before I could be sure. My heart was racing, and I laughed it off like it was nothing. Probably corrupted files. Probably nothing at all. That's what I told myself. But something about the warmth of the phone returned to me in that moment. That faint hum under my skin. The feeling that this device wasn't dead at all. That maybe it had been waiting. Waiting for me. I tried not to think about it after that. I told myself it was just an old corrupted folder. Maybe some leftover junk the system didn't know how to categorize. Phones do weird things when they age, right? That's what I wanted to believe. But belief only goes so far when your curiosity keeps tugging at you like a loose thread. I don't know how long I sat there staring at that black dot folder before I finally tapped it again. My stomach was tight, but I told myself I was being ridiculous. I'd scroll a little further, prove it was just nonsense, and then shut the thing down for good. The thumbnails blurred past my thumb. A collage of half-glimpsed shadows and unfamiliar walls. And then there it was. Picture of me. First I laughed. Actually laughed. It was so absurd, so obviously wrong. I told myself it must have been one of those old sleepovers with friends. Maybe someone grabbed my phone and snapped a joke picture while I was passed out. I almost managed to believe it. But then I looked closer. I should have thrown the phone out the window then. Smashed it into 1,000 pieces and walked away. But something inside me demanded that I keep looking. Call it morbid curiosity or the desperate hope that if I understood it, I could control it. Either way, I couldn't stop. The next photos began innocuously enough. Streets I thought I'd never revisit. Cafes with familiar neon signs. Stairwells in apartment buildings I had passed 1,000 times without thinking twice. But the longer I scrolled, the tighter my chest became. Because each image was too precise. Every angle, every shadow, every tiny detail matched the real world in a way that no casual photography ever could. Then it happened. A photo of my childhood street. The one with the cracked sidewalks and the gnarled oak tree that my friends and I used as a meeting spot. At first, I hesitated. It looked ordinary, even comforting. But then I noticed the mailbox. The dent on the side. The faded sticker my mother had slapped on it 20 years ago. It was still there. Someone had taken this photo within the last week. Someone had been standing there, framing my past for reasons I couldn't understand. And that's when it hit me. It wasn't just strangers anymore. It was watching me. The creeping realization clawed up my spine. I flicked through the next few images and my breath caught. A friend's apartment I had visited just days ago appeared, perfectly framed. The furniture, the cluttered coffee table, even the small cat scratching post in the corner. Every detail exactly as I remembered it. And then, as if to mock me, the next photo made my stomach drop. Me. Not some distorted, blurry figure or a vague shadow in the distance. Me. In my current clothes. Sitting at my desk, phone in hand, the same one I was holding now. It was from the angle of my doorway, the curtains drawn, the lamp on, everything identical to this very room. I swallowed hard, my mouth dry. My pulse pounded like a jackhammer in my ears. I tried to rationalize it. Could it be some elaborate prank? A hacker? A deep web nightmare come to life? Or worse, was it something I couldn't even begin to name? My apartment suddenly felt alien. The familiar hum of my refrigerator was sinister. The shadows cast by my desk lamp stretched too long, too sharp. Every creak in the floorboards sounded amplified, threatening. I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on me, even when no one was there. I kept flicking through the album despite myself. Each photo added to the puzzle, each frame more unsettling than the last. Places I had been, faces I vaguely recognized. And me, always watched, always captured in ways I couldn't explain. A dark thought took root. Where were these photos coming from? Who or what was behind them? And why did it feel like it wasn't just taking pictures, but leaving messages, warnings, proof that I wasn't safe anywhere? Not in my own home, not in the streets I knew, not even in my memories? I had to know. I couldn't stop myself from investigating. I had to trace the origin of these images, track how they got onto the phone, and understand who was watching me or what. My hands shook as I powered up my laptop, opened encrypted forums, and started jotting down every detail. Each image, each familiar location, each horrifyingly accurate angle. I knew I was walking into something I might not come back from, but I also knew that ignoring it wasn't an option, because whatever was behind these photos wasn't done with me yet. And if I didn't uncover the truth, I had no idea how far it would go. I tried to approach it like a normal problem, a tech issue, a glitch, anything rational. I opened the first photo on my laptop and checked the metadata. Date, time, location. Nothing added up. The timestamps were recent, but the camera device listed was mine, from 10 years ago. The GPS coordinates were either missing or oddly generic. I refreshed the file, restarted the software, even tried a few online tools. Each attempt left me more frustrated, more unnerved. Finally, I called my friend Josh. He's the kind of guy who fixes things nobody else can. Old phones, corrupted drives, weird software errors. I explained what was happening, trying to keep my voice casual. "It's probably just corrupted files, man," he said, laughing. "Your phone's old. Just leave it alone." "I'm serious, Josh," I insisted. "This isn't a glitch. Look at this." I sent him the first few photos. At first, he chuckled through the screen share. Then I saw his expression change. His laugh cut short. Eyes widened. His fingers paused over the keyboard. "What the hell?" he muttered. I leaned closer. What do you see?" He shook his head, voice low. I can't explain it. I mean, I don't want to. Just trust me. Don't show anyone else. Delete the folder. Just stay away from it." I pressed him for answers. "Josh, come on. You've seen worse. Explain it. Tell me what this is." "No, man. Seriously. I can't. Not over a call. Not like this. Just be careful. You don't know what you're dealing with." The line went silent. I hung up, my stomach twisting. The rational part of my brain screamed, hoax, prank, coincidence. But the rest of me, the part that had stared at the impossible photos of myself and strangers, knew better. Whatever was on that phone wasn't just files. It was something alive, something watching. I tried the police next. A routine call about suspicious photos. They listened politely, asked me a few questions about malware, hacking, phone backups. After 10 minutes of explaining, the officer sighed. "Sir, it sounds like you've got corrupted files. Maybe an old virus. If you want, bring the device in and we'll take a look. But don't expect anything unusual. These things happen all the time." I knew it wasn't a virus. Not like this. I spent the next few days documenting everything, photographing the screen, noting timestamps, cross-referencing locations. Each time I thought I had a lead, the evidence twisted just out of reach. The folder remained, untouched yet growing, as if it were waiting for me to notice. Josh refused to come over again after that first call. "I saw enough," he said. "Don't make me see more. Just handle it yourself." And I was alone with it. But being alone didn't make the fear manageable, it magnified it. Every creak in the apartment, every shadow against the wall, every late-night hum from the heater felt like a warning. Like the phone knew I was watching it. Like it was aware I was aware. Eventually, the curiosity overcame the fear. I had to go further. Online, there were forums, hidden threads that only a few people seemed to know about. Users talking about phantom photo phenomena, abandoned devices that captured more than they should, warnings about things you couldn't unsee. Some called it a virus. Some called it a ghost. Some called it something older, something that had rules we couldn't understand. And the more I read, the more I realized that rational explanations weren't going to save me. Whatever this was, it didn't care about logic. It only cared about exposure, about observation, about letting me look just far enough to know I couldn't stop. I didn't want to follow this path, but I had no choice. The photos weren't just on the phone anymore. They were in my head, tracing my thoughts, moving through my life without leaving fingerprints. And I had to find out who or what was behind them. I spent hours online, following the digital breadcrumbs wherever they led, scrolling through forums that looked like they hadn't been updated since the early 2000s. Most of them were empty, ghost towns of old usernames and forgotten posts. But a few threads caught my attention, threads that mentioned things like phantom photo phenomena, haunted devices, and warnings about pictures that weren't just images but messages. I read post after post from people claiming they'd found photos of themselves on devices they hadn't used in years, or of places they'd never been. Some said their old phones were possessed. Some whispered about government surveillance experiments, shadowy organizations tracking citizens using devices we thought were abandoned. Others, fewer, darker voices, hinted at timelines bending around the observer, that these images weren't taken, but plucked from moments that might have been. I couldn't stop scrolling. The stories all had the same pattern. First, the ordinary nostalgia. Then, the impossible photos. Then, the slow, creeping realization that someone or something was always watching. Most of the accounts ended with people disappearing, mental breakdowns, or cryptic warnings to destroy the device immediately. I remembered what Josh had said. He'd seen one photo and refused to explain. The warnings in these threads echoed that same dread, the same hesitation. The more I read, the more I realized he had been telling me the truth without saying a word. Once you see it, there's no turning back. One post made my blood run cold. The username was long gone, but the content remained. If you found the album, don't look at the last photo. Don't even think about it. The album is hungry. It grows with every observation, and it waits until it's satisfied. Once it's satisfied, it comes for you. I had to put the laptop down. I had to, but my hands were shaking, my mind spinning with images of those first impossible photos. My bedroom, my own face, the strangers in their rooms. All part of something bigger I couldn't comprehend. The forums referenced other accounts I recognized from creepypasta lore, almost like callbacks to cases we'd all heard whispered about in the community. The Red Room stories. The old YouTube channels that vanished overnight. The tales of cursed apps. They weren't fiction, not exactly. They were warnings disguised as tales. And now I was living one. Every rational explanation I'd clung to, glitch, virus, prank, fell apart the deeper I delved. There was no way these images could exist under normal rules. Nothing explained the precision, the relevance, the way the photos seemed to interact with my life. Something was orchestrating it all. Something beyond the natural, something that defied explanation. I kept scrolling despite myself. There were diagrams, drawings of cameras in impossible angles, floor plans of abandoned buildings I had never seen, sketches of figures whose faces were deliberately obscured. Some posters claimed they had found patterns, rules to the phenomena, but none survived long enough to explain them fully. And then I saw the comment that made me stop in my tracks. It's not just the photos. It's what they show you before you're ready. Some call it a warning, others a promise. Either way, it's watching, and it doesn't like to be ignored. I glanced at my phone, lying there on the desk. It was silent, but I felt it vibrating against my skin, a pulse almost imperceptible, like it knew I was thinking about it. My chest tightened. Whatever I had in my hands wasn't just a device anymore. It was a window, a beacon, a trap. I had to know how far it reached. I had to see what came next. And yet, a quiet voice in my head screamed that the next photo, the last one, would change everything. The threads all ended with the same chilling advice. Observe with caution, stop while you can, and never, under any circumstances, open the last image. But of course I couldn't stop. The hunger of the album had already begun to reach for me. I should have listened to Josh. I should have walked away the second he told me not to look. But pride, curiosity, and a foolish sense of control kept me glued to the phone. It started with missed calls. First 1 or 2, then a full day without hearing from him. I brushed it off, assuming he was busy, that he was ignoring me. But by the third day, I was worried enough to drive to his apartment. The place was empty. Not a word from neighbors. Not a note on the door. His car was gone, his keys still on the counter. I called. No answer. Texts went unread. Panic clawed at me as I retraced our last conversation, our shared horror over the photos. He had seen one. That was enough. But the thought that he might have been the next victim made my stomach twist. And then the phone buzzed. A new photo. I froze. The folder I had tried to avoid had added an image I didn't take. My hands shook as I swiped it open. Josh, or at least someone who looked like him. His face pale, eyes wide with terror, mouth slightly open as if caught mid-scream. The background was dark, but I could make out the outlines of what looked like a room, the same one he lived in. But something was off. Everything about it felt wrong. The shadows bent unnaturally, stretching across the walls like fingers. Couldn't breathe. My voice caught in my throat as I whispered his name. Josh? Nothing. I stared at the photo, then at the door of my apartment as if expecting him or whatever had taken him to appear there next. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might explode. Every rational explanation I had clung to, glitch, prank, coincidence, crumbled into dust. This wasn't just data. This wasn't harmless. I thought of the warnings in the forums, of the posts about phantom photo phenomena, about devices that watch you and wait for you. The warnings I had ignored. Now Josh was gone, and the phone had delivered proof of it. A creeping realization settled over me. If Josh could disappear, then there was nothing stopping the same fate from reaching me. My home, my life, my memories. Everything could be taken, framed, cataloged, manipulated, just like the photos on that cursed device. I wanted to throw the phone, smash it, destroy it in every way possible. But the pull was too strong. I couldn't stop myself from looking, from scrolling further. And as I stared at Josh's terrified face, I understood the horrifying truth. This wasn't just a folder of images. This was a predator. And I was next. I shouldn't have opened it. I knew better. Every warning, every missed call, every vanished friend screamed at me to stop. But by the time I reached the last photo in that cursed album, it was already too late. My thumb hovered over the screen, shaking, and then I swiped. The image loaded slowly, like it was savoring my fear. My house, not a picture I had taken, not a reflection in a window or a glitchy security camera capture. This was my home, seen from outside, from the street, almost like someone was standing across the road, waiting. The curtains were drawn, but in the glow of the street lamp, The shapes of furniture inside were visible. The shadows were longer than they should be, bending toward the windows as if stretching out to reach me. I swallowed hard, my hands trembling so violently I nearly dropped the phone. The next photo appeared. The front door. Closer. I recognized every scratch in the wood, the little dent where the handle had hit the frame last week, even the scuff marks from my cat's claws. It was as though the device had been inside the walls of my house, creeping ever closer, capturing every detail with intent. Another swipe. The living room. The couch, the rug, the coffee table scattered with my laptop, notebooks, and the phone itself. I could see myself in the corner of the frame, or at least a figure that looked exactly like me, slumped over my desk. My heart lurched. Another swipe. The desk. My hands. The phone. Everything in the frame identical to this very moment. And then the last photo loaded. I froze. Me. Not a younger version, not a reflection or a shadow. Me. Sitting at my desk, phone in hand, typing this story. Every detail of my posture, every subtle tremor in my fingers, the angle of the lamp light, even the way my hair fell across my forehead. It was all there. And behind me, in the corner, a darkness that hadn't existed before, stretching like a living thing, pressing in. I felt my own breath catch. My pulse thrummed in my ears. I couldn't look away, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The photo wasn't just a recording, it was a mirror. It reflected the present, but also something beyond, something that existed outside the normal boundaries of time and space. I should have dropped the phone. I should have smashed it. I should have run. But I couldn't, because the device knew I was looking. It was alive in some way, aware, feeding off my attention, my fear, my understanding. I realized then that the album was cyclical. It wasn't just a collection of past moments, it was a loop, a trap. Each photo led to the next, each revelation deeper and more personal. And now, by looking at the final photo, I had become part of the story, caught in the frame, observed, recorded. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the phone. Shadows seemed to twitch in the corners of my vision, as though responding to my terror. I could feel the presence, the watcher behind every image I'd seen, behind every vanished friend, behind every impossible photo. And then I understood. I wasn't just the observer anymore. I was the observed. The album hadn't been waiting for me to look. It had been waiting for me to understand. Waiting for me to see that by scrolling, by noticing, by documenting, I had become part of it. The final photo wasn't just a picture. It was a declaration, a boundary crossed. I shouldn't have opened it. But it was I don't know who will hear this or if anyone will. Maybe you think this is just another story, another internet horror to scroll past before bed. But I need you to understand what happened to me can happen to anyone. And now, by listening, by reading, by watching, you're already part of it. Check your phone. Check your gallery. Look at the photos you took yourself, the ones you remember. And then, if you find a folder you don't remember making, if there's an album with a black dot for a name, don't open it. I beg you, don't open it. I can't promise what will happen if you do. I can't promise you'll be safe, or that anyone will believe you afterward. I can only tell you what I've seen, what I've lived through, and what I still feel pressing against my chest every time I pick up that phone. Some of you may be thinking, it's just a story, a creepypasta. But listen, nobody would have warned me. Nobody would have told me not to look. And now Josh is gone. And I'm here, telling you because I have to. Because the phone is still alive. The album is still growing. And it's still waiting. I've tried to stay rational. I've tried to convince myself that it's just corrupted files or some strange prank. But the warmth in the device, the pulse beneath my fingers, the impossible photos, they tell a different story. One that can't be explained. One that can't be stopped. And maybe, if you're listening right now, the album has already found you. Maybe it's on your device, silently cataloging, waiting for the moment you slip. Waiting for your curiosity to do exactly what I did. I don't want you to make the same mistake. Don't dig through forgotten folders. Don't chase the unknown. Don't invite it into your life. Because once it's in, it doesn't leave. It watches, it records, it grows. And it will find a way to show you things you weren't ready to see. I wish I could end this here. I wish I could say it's over. But that's not how it works. The last photo was never the end. It was the beginning. And every moment since has been a countdown. A loop. A warning I didn't heed soon enough. So I'm telling you now. If there's a hidden album on your device, don't look. Leave it buried. Don't scroll. Don't click. Don't even think about opening that folder. Trust me. Whatever you do, don't open it. Because if there's a new photo in my phone tonight, I'll know it was one of you watching. And then, it might be too late for you to